In this video, I will go over my gap and go trades for the week of March 25th through the 29th. I will also have a gap recap for you for the week of March 18th through the 22nd. I will point out the gaps that closed to the upside and the gaps that closed to the downside and any gaps that also formed within the last week. Hi everyone, it's Dow on the Dow. First up is NIO. We ended the day at $4.89. To the north side takes us to a gap beginning at $4.93. At 2 standard deviations and another level of resistance and a potential take profit area, $4.95. A gap fill occurs at roughly $4.99 at 3 standard deviations, and at 4 standard deviations and another potential take profit area, $5.03. To the south side, back at the middle of the trend, $4.87, $4.80. Another level of support and a potential buy-in area, $4.76, and another level of support, $4.72. Note this gap that is still in play. We touched it on the way down, but we have yet to close out, so it will continue to haunt us to the south side, and it will close out at $4.70. There's another gap to the upside that will take us out to $5.19, this one to $5.54, $5.91, but all of these gaps are not in the channel and not in the zone that we are currently in yet. We are still in a downward movement here, downward pressure. You can see we have not gone sideways and then gone up. So right now, still headed down. The RSI is going sideways, but if we go down here, I will anticipate this to close out, but I don't think that closure will happen on Monday, maybe Tuesday if we continue to go south. Next up is SOFI. We ended the week at $7.30. To the north side takes us to a gap at $7.36, closes out at $7.43, the middle of the trend takes us to $7.50. This is another level of resistance as well as these gaps. And to the north side of that takes us to 2 standard deviations and another level of resistance and potential take profit area, $7.75, $7.87, and then at 4 standard deviations, which I do not think we will get to on Monday. And if it does, you can expect a sell-off as people take their profits and they leave. They will be locking in and leaving if we get to this point, and that is at $8. To the south side, -2 standard deviations and support takes us to $7.25, $7.12, $7. Ignore the pink lines. Those are my previous buy lines here. And this green line is my previous sell line. Now, there is a gap that takes us out at $8.57. Another gap to the north side that I've talked about many, many weeks ago at $9.63. There's another gap here, but we are not in the channel, not in the zone, just something to be aware of. And this gap opened up on Tuesday of last week, closed out right here on Wednesday. So that was a quick little trade within this week time frame. And then we have this gap. It's tiny, but still it closed out, touched right there at $7.37, so that is no longer in play. This gap, we gapped up, so I anticipated to fill to the south side, and that one did at roughly $7.36 right here, and then another one developed at $7.36. And we've got a gap that will take us all the way down to roughly $5.40, but we are not in the channel, not in the zone. Right now, we are going upward. And I do not think that we will touch this gap until probably Tuesday, if we continue to go northward. And if we do, See right there? That actually will be maybe Wednesday. Fingers crossed. Next up is RIVN. We ended the week at $10.80 to the north side, back at the middle of the trend. And resistance from where we are, 1092. I'll talk about the gap in a second. Well, no, we'll just do it right now. I will extend this. This opened up last week, so this is in play for us this week. And you can just extend that out. I don't know when it's going to touch, and that's when I'll go back and clean up my charts. But this will close out 1117, 2 standard deviations, and another level of resistance and potential take profit area, 1123, 1138, 1153. And then we've got another gap that I've been tracking. Not in the channel, not in the zone. That will take us to 1533. But right now we are going downward, making lower lows. We have not gone sideways yet for a correction. And the RSI is still turning down, but if we hit this area here of being oversold, then see a reversal, then we could go up. But note here, the low of the day on Friday was 1071, and look at this gap that I've been tracking. 1071, right there. We touched it. So this is no longer a threat to our accounts to the south side. If you went short on this, congratulations. And anytime we hit or close out a gap, I will anticipate a bounce off of that movement. Doesn't always happen. It can go lower and then bounce. And that's what we did, though. We touched a support line and bounced up to resistance. If we are down here and we hit this line, that turns into resistance. Going south turns into support, back up to resistance. And this gap opened up and closed out at 1125. This one closed out at 1139. We hit resistance, and you know exactly what happens at resistance. And then this gap is still in play to the upside, but we are not in the channel, not in the zone. Eventually, it will take us to 1167. Next up, TSLY. I am in this trade. I'm actually in NIO, SOFI, and TSLY. All right, 1572. Back at the baseline, 1575. Resistance, 1588. I anticipate price to stay within -2 and 2 standard deviations all day long. Anything outside of that is, for me, an outlier and a clear buy or sell signal. And if I play outside those lines, that's a little riskier for me, but sometimes I don't necessarily want to get out of a trade, so I just stay in there longer and roll the dice. All right, the next level after that, 1595, 1602 to the south side, 1561, ignore the pink line, 1554, 1547. And we've got, let's talk about the gaps that will take us to the south side. We are not in the channel, not in the zone, but that will eventually haunt us and take us down to 1494. With RIVN, we finally ripped off the Band-Aid and we hit that gap fill. So now I do anticipate better days ahead for RIVN. Fingers crossed on that one. All right, this gap still in play, taking us up to 1619, not in the channel, not in the zone, but we are getting closer. And then 1720. And then this one, I mean, Tesla tanked. So TSLY tanked, and now we're in a slight reversal here. And then we've got a gap within a gap here. And that one takes us to 1947. And then look at this one, $23. It's a long ways off, people. Don't hold your breath. But a great swing trade nonetheless. Next one, Palantir. I talked about Palantir and put this in my gap and go trades because I saw a quick, easy gap to the upside and it filled. First up, let's go over the numbers for the week. To the north side on Monday, 12 2463. Ignore the red line. That's a previous price target. So we've got 2539, 2575, and right here 2613. Never expect price to go to 4 standard deviations when we're all the way down here. Even at the middle, sometimes it's a big effort to get there. But if we do, again, I expect a sell-off. Okay, to the south side, 2387, 2351, and I don't think we'll get to the two negative 4 standard deviations. It'll take a little bit if we do go south. But right now we're in upward channel, 2311. Now for the gaps, your gap and goes, your gap fills, I should say for that one, 2279. Then we had this gap open up and close. That was an easy play, 2396. And this was the gap I was tracking. And oops, Command Z if you have a Mac. So this gap opened up on Friday the 15th, and we closed right here on Wednesday the 20th at 2436. So this gap is no longer in play. I will erase those numbers there. And what else? Oh, this one, I need to clean up. I don't know what happened here. Let me just fix that. All right, this gap closed. Let me erase that. I need to go through and clean these things up. Let's try that again. And this gap closed to the downside right there at 2617. I am in this trade as well. And I did do a swing trade on this, but I am done selling. I'm keeping the rest of my shares for a long-term investment. And obviously, if we tank, I will add more to the portfolio. The next one, Pfizer. I'm in this trade also for my mom. I invest for her. And this past week, I made some money for her for PayPal, so that was nice. A short swing trade for 10%. All right, 2736 is where we ended, to the middle of the trend. From here to here is very doable. 2757, 2784, 2798, and not in the zone here, 2812 from where we are. To the south side, support 2729, and note this gap. Actually, I'll talk about that in a second. Another level of support and a potential buy-in area, 2716, 2702. Now for this gap to the south side at 2610. We are not in the channel, not in the zone, but we are going down. So we could potentially hit it. If we continue to go south, that could take us, where is, that's odd. Something disappeared. Anyway, that's not going to happen probably. Well, it won't fill on Monday. It may tickle this line, but I don't think so. I don't think it will get there till maybe Wednesday if we hit it. If we correct, then obviously we won't, but this will haunt us until we do. All right, this one closed out at 2724. I will erase that. No longer a threat to our account to the south side. And this one closed out at 2773. And this gap takes us to 3034, and that is probably where I will get off the gravy train for my mom. I am up on some shares and down slightly on others, but overall still up because of the quantity of shares that I have. All right, that is it. Exelon is doing excellently. Finally, we've reversed and started to go up. So that is nice to see. We ended the week at 36.70. Now, this is where we are. We are at basically support. I will anticipate a bounce. We could go down a little more. Check out the RSI. We have not started to reverse yet, but once we do, this will potentially go up with it. Baseline 36.92, 37.18, 37.31, 37.44. This gap is still in play to the north side, closing out at 37.90, not in the channel, not in the zone to close out, but something to look forward to. And all these other gaps, look at this, have filled. Nice. This gap to the downside filled too. All right. And this is still a threat to our accounts, but we are in an upward channel now. So we have reverse course, but this could come back to haunt us later. And that's it. Intel, I'm in this trade for my mom. Down slightly here. I've been up and down, but this does pay, I believe, a dividend. So we are up overall. Where is that? Where did the... I don't know where it went. All right. Oh, there. 1.17%. Just a small one. But beats putting your money in the bank. Find better ways to make interest, and it won't be with the bank unless you're doing, you know, an account that pays you 4 point something, which I just did switch to a higher yield account with a bank of mine. So to the north side here, let's stay on track. 42.78, 43.59, 44.01, and 44.72. The gap that I am tracking still takes us to 45.17, and then this baby all the way up to 50.18, but before we get there, it'll take us through 49.50 there. The 1 year price target, which is something I always take a look at, 45.97, but there's a gap that will take us to 50.18. Fingers crossed. Not in the channel, not in the zone, but something to look forward to. To the south side, this gap closed 42.01. This gap to the north side right here closed out on Wednesday to 42.67. This one closed us out at roughly 42.23. This is no longer a threat to our account to the south side. Note here, we closed out the gap, and then what did we do? Bounced up. That's what usually happens when I notice a gap up when it fills to the south side. But if we are at a gap filled to the north side, usually that is, resistance, and then I usually see a pullback. All right, the next one. 42.57. All right. Did I tell you? Did I mention the gap? Yeah, there was no gap that week that opened up. Okay, back to. And by the way, it's resistance and not resistance. I'm slurring my words. So, all right, next one. Schlumberger. 53.99 to the middle of the trend, 54.17, 54.71, 54.97, 55.23. And this gap takes us to, look how long I've been tracking this gap. My goodness. 56.39. I have been tracking, let me show you. Let's go to the 1 hour. I have been tracking this gap fill for how many weeks? My goodness. Look at this. Many trades, nice swing trades in between here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 weeks. And this stock, SLB, is in Vanguard's Total Stock Market Index Fund, by the way. Vanguard does own this. Now back to the 5-minute time frame. And obviously you want to play different time frames and look at different time frames because they give you different buy and sell signals. And then this also tells me whether I should be investing or just doing a quick swing trade. All right. I don't know why these two dates ended up at 50. Oh, it's 50.40 and 54.40. All right, now I got sidetracked. So this takes us, I mentioned. Okay, in case I didn't, but I think I just did because, again, I don't know what I was doing here. 54.70 to the south, to the north side, and to the south side here, 53.62. That's your range. That's what I always anticipate, price staying within -2 and 2. And the lines continuously change depending upon the time frame that you play. So keep that in mind as well. Now, for the gaps to the south side here, this one is still in play, still a threat to our account, and this will take us to 52.60. And this one, unfortunately, oh wait, nope, this one, wait a second, look at that. That closed. Oops, nope, this one's done. We gapped up and we closed right there. Is that right? No. Here we go. Okay, there we go. This one will take us down to 51.61. And this little teeny baby gap here, so we gapped, oh, let me make this bigger. It's hard to see sometimes. Okay, we gapped down off of this, so I anticipate a gap up to the north side, and it did that at 54.43. Okay, I will try to hurry and get through the next few tickers here because the video is getting long. All right, 72.13 is where we ended for BABA. I'm also in this one, and we've got a gap here. This will be at 72.54. But before we get there, we will get to 73.01, closing out at 73.77, 74.42, 71.10, and 75.80. And 76.36 is this other gap, a gap within the gap here, or partially, and then we've got this one, and then we've got this one. I mean, this stock has been a nightmare if you own this, a complete nightmare. Still in a downward channel, and look at these gaps that are a threat to our accounts to the south side, and oh, look at this, nasty, nasty. If you like to go short, you've been winning. But we have had some closures to the upside. I'll go back and clean up my chart later. And this one takes us down all the way to 65.31. This one 68.63. Not in the channel, not in the zone, but eventually it could come to haunt us. So I'd rather have the Band-Aid ripped off right now, just have this thing flush, take out these gaps that are an open wound, what I consider an open wound, and just tank. I just need this thing to tank, and then that way reverse. All right, Nike. I'm in this trade for my mom. This one has whipped us around. We just reported earnings here. All right. Reported it's 12.429 billion, estimate 12.28 billion. So up 1.22%. And off of earnings, look at this, we tanked and then bounced off of support there, clear line. All right, here are your numbers. Ignore all these lines. These are previous support and resistance. I will clean it up later, maybe. I'd like to see where I've come and where I am heading. And this is where we were previously. So I expect it to touch again as we retrace. But right now, going down. 95.44. This gap here, still in play. It opened up last week. So something to look forward to the upside. All right, let me give this again. Roughly 95, 43, 46-ish. 133, this gap closes. 175, 102.76, 105.18. To the south side, 90.59, 88.14, 85.74. And then this mother of a gap at 122.40. I've been tracking this one forever. Again, right now, still in a downward channel. Hopefully, it will start going sideways and then reverse. I need some consolidation and basing to go through that phase and then a reversal. Apple, my favorite stock of all time. Although I think it's time for Tim Cook to step down. Too many bad things have happened lately. Lawsuits, giving up the $30 billion Apple car, which I wanted. I was looking forward to it. Not happening. I got the rug pulled from underneath me. Not very happy about that. All right. But I do have a Tesla reserved. I don't know. I'm vacillating with the Cybertruck. My sister also has a car reserved, but she's on the list. And she's on the list probably 2 years earlier than I am, so she's still not getting her Tesla. All right, to the north side, 174.58, 176.05, and 177.65. And this gap still in play from last week, taking us to 177.96. I don't know if we can hit this, but if we do, you can expect a pullback. As people take their profits and they run, they will be locking in and leaving. To the south side, 171.53, 168.50, 166.96-ish, 165.48-ish. These are all ish numbers, okay? 164.19 roughly. And then this one will take us out to, what is that? Good Lord, Apple, I don't even know. Here, I don't want to go to a different time frame to check it out, so I will just remark this. 161.45. $160.32. And then I was also in a class action lawsuit, which I had no idea I was in. And I did get, I don't know, was it 70 or 90 bucks out of that? It cracked me up. The lawyers make all the money. It's a joke. Don't get me started. Well, actually, I'm just starting myself. I'm winding myself up. All right, Baba. Although, again, Apple is my favorite stock of all time. And it's been very profitable for me. But I feel we're in a rut. All right, the numbers. The north side here takes us to 191.87, 194.95, 196.55, 198.08. Draw your trend lines. Draw your Fibonacci retracements, your support and resistance lines, your Bollinger Bands, your VWAP, whatever it is. But there are many levels in between this. I'm just giving you just some generic numbers here that I like to use, the standard deviations. All right, To the south side, I don't know, I've started ranting again, 187.19 and 185.66. I hope I gave you the number. But baseline, middle of the trend, 191.80. And I am in this trade for my mom. All right. Oh, and they need to clean house with Boeing too. I mean, this is terrible what has happened to Boeing. Time to clean house, move back, headquarters back to Seattle, get better quality control people, and start over with Boeing. You cannot keep these yahoos that have done this to Boeing. And the whistleblower mysteriously died. What happened there? And before he died, he said if he died, don't believe them. And I do not believe that he somehow died right before his testimony was over. No way, no how. Scary what happened to him. Okay, 192 to the upside. This is the gap that I've been tracking for quite some time here. Well, quite some time for some people, but March 11th. And the gap, we gapped, let's see, we gapped down. So I anticipate a fill, and we did at 192.24, 192.24. And look at this, 192.94 is the high. So the high was right here. Well, not for Monday. Or for Friday, excuse me. That was Thursday. We hit 192.91, but where is the 94 coming in? Oh well. But this gap here still in play to the downside, as I mentioned, so this will haunt us, although we are going upward. All right, 198.51. That will close us out. And then this one closed out already. Let me erase that so that way I don't get confused when I look at the chart very quickly, you know, on the daily, the weekly, the monthly, which I like to do. And then when I look at it at a quick glance, when I remove these, see, I need to go through and clean up my charts, but I will do that at another time. I don't want to do that right now. It will just take too long. I don't want to bore you. Oh, look at this. We gapped down so hard, fell so hard from grace that we have a potential to go back up, and that will take us to 222.69, not in the channel, not in the zone, not even close, but something to look forward to. And I will be removing Palantir off my list because, again, I brought you this trade because it was an easy, quick trade for a gap, and this is all I'm doing. These are just gap and go trades. So I will remove that, and the gap and go trade that I will replace it with is Mara. I'm in this. I've traded this previously, and we are at $20.87. We are in an upward channel right now, fortunately. All right. And to the north side takes us to a gap at 21.38. It closes out at 21.77. I think this is very doable if we continue to go up. The middle of the trend takes us to 22.35, 24.22, 25.16, 26.04. Ignore the horizontal line to the south side. Very doable here at 20.45 and 19.54 and 1861. I don't think we'll get that low, but the RSI is turning down, so we're still going to go down a little bit, and then we will be hitting support, and that's when I think we will bounce. This gap from last week closed out. See, sometimes it looks like it closed all the way. Yeah, I'll just give you a win, and even if it didn't, doesn't matter. If you stretch this out to this level, it definitely closed here. So that's done, and this one is done to the upside. And this is done to the south side right about there at 1753. Now, we have many gaps to the south side. I don't want to bore you with that, but that will take us down to 1502 and then all of these, but that's former support and resistance and my former support and resistance, yeah, as we climbed up. And look at this. All these gaps closed to the upside and to the downside as well. But once this gap closes, just this quick one, then I'll look for another one for you. All right, and I will flip this over to the daily, just like my other rant. Where did I? Just wanted to show you something. Where did I? Oh, this is my public service announcement here. If you've made it this far, thank you so much for watching. And if you are a Desert Creek homeowner, please drain the swamp. Vote out Donna Turberg, who's been the HOA on the board and president for most of the time, but on the board for over 22 years. It's time to clean house after this lawsuit that we've had, and Richard Ramsey and Vicky Brancato as well. And that is a look at the Gap and Go trades for the week of March 25th through the 29th. And there is no trading day on Friday because it's Good Friday. And that is also a look at my gap recap for the previous week. If there is a if there is a ticker in general that you want me to go over outside of this Gap and Go video, please let me know. Have a great trading week.